I'm Shelley Carroll, and this is Chakras and Archetypes, Embracing the Light and the Shadow. In this introduction, I'm going to give you an overview of chakras and energy theory and a basic understanding of archetypes. So let's get started. One of the biggest concepts in yoga is this idea that there is duality and at the same time non-duality, that we are all made of light and that we are all made of shadow. The magic happens in our lives when we embrace ourselves fully, when we embrace the light and the shadow side of ourselves, when we embrace the sun and the moon. So in this workshop, we'll dive into the 7 major chakras or energy centers and learn how they affect us energetically, physically, and spiritually. We'll explore basic human archetypes and how each of us has the light and shadow side, as they say in the Yoga Sutras, the Sthira and the Sukha, and learn to love and embrace not only our light, but also our shadow side so that we can live fully. We'll practice asana and pranayama and meditation later on in this workshop to help balance and energize each of the 7 major chakras. So the chakra system is part of energy theory in yoga. And a lot of times when I talk about energy theory, in addition to chakras, we'll talk about meridians in yin yoga, or we will talk about bandhas or the koshas. And at some point in training, you'll learn about all of these things. But for right now, we'll concentrate on the chakra system. And as you can see in this diagram, there's a lot of color and a lot of happiness here. And so we'll talk about that too, about how color, about how perception can completely relate to the energy centers in our body. Now let's dive in and get to it. One of my favorite resources for understanding the chakra system is a book by Anodea Judith called Wheels of Light. And that is exactly how she describes each of the major chakra centers. I keep saying the word major, so understand there are tons of minor chakras, tons of minor energy centers. But when we generally are talking about chakra system, we're talking about these 7 that you see pictured here. The chakras are centers of energy. They're located in the midline of the body. Right? They govern our physiological and psychological properties. The chakras located in the lower side of our body, which are pictured here in red, orange, and yellow, are our instinctual side. And then the highest ones are our mental side. In Chinese medicine and often in yin yoga, the chakras coincide with the meridian points used for centuries in Chinese healing, such as acupuncture. In the Hindu metaphysical tradition, they are the centers of prana, which means life force, and they store vital energy. Their name derives from the Sanskrit word for wheel or turning. But in a yoga context, I think a better translation might be like whirlpool or vortex. The chakras form part of the corporal body, along with the nadis or breath channels and the vayus, the winds. They're located along the Sushumna, which is a central channel. So if you look at this diagram where you see the chakras represented as the vortexes, imagine a straight line running from the base all the way through the crown of the head. And that is the Sushumna, or the central channel. And in your body, that's also your spine. There are 2 side channels that go on either side of the Sushumna, and those are the nadis and the vayus. And when they cross over like a DNA strand. Every place they meet, a major chakra is formed. Each chakra is associated with a seed mantra or sound, with a color, with a deity, with a psychological property or archetype. So we'll explore these chakras in detail and learn the properties associated with each energy center so that you can discover where you are balanced and imbalanced in your life. And I just want to take a moment, if you haven't taken our Sanskrit lab yet, to point out that the word chakra is one of the most mispronounced words in Sanskrit. Many people say chakra, like Shaka Khan, but the actual pronunciation is chakra, like chocolate or cha-cha-cha. So here's a little diagram to show you a little more detail. We'll go over all of these words in Sanskrit as well. So right at the bottom, you see the root chakra, followed by the navel and the solar plexus, and then the heart, throat, the third eye, and the crown. And very often you'll see this as representing the front of the body, but think of these energy centers as expanding from the center of the body out. So these are on the front of your spine, on the front of your body, and the back of your body. So here the chakra system is visually represented with the caduceus symbol, which you will recognize as the symbol of modern Western medicine. I think that Hippocrates in Greece was one of the first people to use this symbol in Western medicine, and that name may be familiar as the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm. Yogis and Ayurvedic practitioners were using this symbol to represent the chakras long before Hippocrates was even born. So looking at this symbol and thinking of it as medicine, right, as healing, you'll notice that there are two snakes that start at the root, the red symbol at the bottom, which is the base of the spine, and wrap around the staff, the Sushumna, coming all the way up to the top. So this is representative of Kundalini. And Kundalini is visualized as a coiled snake resting at the base of the spine, awaiting awakening, wanting to rise up through the Sushumna to the crown chakra, where Shiva, or the divine consciousness, resides. So the yogis believe that awakening Kundalini brings enlightenment to the practitioner. In Tantra Yoga, which is the source of chakra theory, the whole universe is a manifestation of pure consciousness. Deepak Chopra talks a lot about this right now, pure consciousness, awakening, and this is Kundalini. In this manifestation, consciousness is divided into two parts, which seem separate, but they can't exist without the other. Shiva, which is a static, formless quality, and Shakti, which is a dynamic, creative quality. Now, as Sushumna is opened in a yoga practitioner, the creative Shakti force in the form of Kundalini is able to rise up through the chakras and merge with Shiva. And this is what we refer to when we talk about Kundalini awakening. I also want to point out that Shiva is also associated with masculinity and Shakti with femininity. So since Kundalini rises from root to crown, we'll begin our journey at the base and move upward. And the health of each chakra depends upon the health of the chakras below it. So as we build from survival to movement to energy in the lower three chakras and begin to step outside of our egos in the upper four. And the purpose of practicing the 8 limbs of yoga is to cleanse the body in preparation for this Kundalini awakening, right? For this enlightenment. During asana practice, the Trishtana of Ujjayi breath, Bandha or energy lock, and Drishti, just gaze, is believed to seal off the energy from the root to the crown so that our practice is more effective at clearing the Sushumna, at clearing the channels. And the word Bandha means lock, and bandhas are muscular engagements or locks that are believed to assist in the movement of Kundalini energy. There have been entire books written about bandhas, but for our purposes at this level, the 3 main bandhas that we'll refer to and practice are Mula Bandha, which is the root lock at the pelvic floor, Uddiyana Bandha, which you're probably very familiar with from asana, in the low belly, and Jaladhara Bandha at the throat. Think of tucking your chin down towards your chest. Mudra means seal, and there are a variety of mudras believed to seal the body at different points so that prana may circulate freely in the body. And each mudra has a different purpose or meaning. And we'll dive into more of that later on. I just wanted to mention it here as part of energy theory. The first chakra is the root chakra, or Muladhara chakra. Now repeat that after me. Muladhara. Muladhara. Muladhara chakra. The Muladhara chakra is located at the base of your spine and is referred to as the first chakra, the place where Kundalini resides. Now, this is also known as support chakra, associated with security. And security can be many things. It's in the form of a job or shelter. This is the chakra that grounds us. And you might recognize the word mula as mula bandha or root lock. The color is red, as you see here. And I've included a quote for each one of the chakras. For this one, I've included a quote from one of my favorite philosophers, Thich Nhat Hanh. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. Think of that as being grounded, but not grounded in a way that's oppressive, grounded in a way that's connected. The Muladhara chakra represents our foundation and the feeling of being grounded or safe and secure. And here we'll start to go through all of the different qualities and associations with each one of the chakras. The meaning of Muladhara is root support. The location is at the base of the spine, near the tailbone, or at the perineum in the sacral area. And the emotional issues that are associated with Muladhara are a sense of well-being, the feeling of being grounded or connected to earth, and survival issues such as financial independence, money, and food. When Muladhara chakra is in light, the archetype is the mother. And when Muladhara is in shadow, the archetype is the victim. We'll go into more of this later, but just to have an awareness that that's here. The color is red. The element is earth. Again, think grounded. The planet is Mars, the red planet. The deity is Ganesh. Ganesh is known as the remover of obstacles, which helps you feel more secure. The sense is smell. The flavor is chai or even something earthy, like beets. Crystals associated with Muladhara are pretty much anything red. I think first of garnet and ruby. When Muladhara is balanced, you would feel a sense of well-being. When Muladhara is underactive, it could be insecurity or easily overwhelmed, ungrounded. And when it's overactive, it could be the complete opposite, like hoarding, obsessed with material things, afraid of any and all change. And as you'll see as we dive into each one of these in more and more detail, we'll talk about a bija or a seed mantra. And there's a sacred vowel sound for each one of the chakras. And we'll chant them when we do each one of the chakras individually. But the sound, the bija mantra for Muladhara is LAM, L-A-M. And just as a curiosity, I refer you to MC Yogi and his Chakra beatbox song if you want to remember the seed sounds. Asanas often associated with Muladhara will be things that are grounding. Paschimottanasana, Uttanasana, Utkatasana, Vrikshasana. Lots of standing postures. I mean, we could keep going, right? Anything in the grounding series in Baptiste Yoga. Healing foods would be red foods, such as apples and beets, hot spices like cayenne pepper, again, chai, root vegetables, potatoes and carrots. Now, I know that those aren't red, but they actually are root vegetables. So think about things that grow in the ground. And just to remember, to help you remember, again, Muladhara chakra, it is associated with Mula Bandha and earth. The second chakra is the Svanistana chakra, or the sacral chakra. I'll repeat that after me. This one's a little harder. Svadhisthana. Svadhisthana chakra. So this chakra is known as the dwelling place of the self. It's the chakra of creativity, of passion, of sexuality. The mantra for this chakra is, I am creative, passionate, and trusting of the universe. The color is orange. And the quote I've included for this chakra is from Vincent van Gogh, one of the most creative and possibly mad artists of all time. Let's not forget that the little emotions are the great captains of our lives, and we obey them without realizing it. The Svanistana chakra is the sacral chakra, and it is related to our emotions and our sexuality. This chakra is about our connection and our ability to accept others and new experiences. Cha-cha changes. The meaning of Svanistana is the sacred home of the self. The location, as I mentioned, is at the sacrum. And so if you think about where your sacrum is, that flat piece right at the base of your spine, and you wrap all the way around the front of your body, this is where all of your sexual organs are. So this would be testicles, this would be uterus, this would be ovaries, this would be like where all of those things are in your body. So when we talk about creativity, I want to take just a moment to mention that, yes, we are talking about creating another human being. We are talking about procreation, right? That is part of the activity here in Svadhisthana chakra. But we're also talking about everything else that you create. We're talking about the great artists and the great musicians. We're talking about people who create movements. Anything that can be created is in the home of the Svadhisthana chakra. So the emotional issues that are tied to this chakra are things like a sense of abundance, a sense of well-being, intimacy, be that sexual or otherwise, pleasure, again, sexual or otherwise, and sexuality. And please understand, when I use the word sexuality, I'm not talking about who you're attracted to. We're talking just more about like seeing yourself as a sexual being. So we are most certainly all creators, and I think that's important to mention here, that whether you create a great work of art, whether you've created a little human, whether you've created a piece of music, or whether you create badass spreadsheets, right? Or movements or communities, whatever you're creating, each and every one of you is a creator in your own right. The archetypes associated with Svanistana are, when in light, the emperor or empress, and when in shadow, the martyr. And think for a moment about the difference just between those words. When you hear emperor or empress, you think of this person who is ruling their realm, sort of in charge of their destiny, versus the martyr, that is, everything is happening to them, or they're sacrificing for everyone else. The color associated with Svanistana is orange, and the element is water. This one is sometimes hard to remember. We don't think of the color orange and associate it with water, but if you think about where this chakra is in your body, right, at your pelvic bowl, think of your pelvic bowl as movement, as water, and literally just your pelvic bowl holding water will help you remember it. The planet is Mercury, and the deity is Vishnu. The sense associated with Svanistana is taste. And I'll make a correlation for that for you in just a moment to help you remember. The flavor is orange or tangerine. And the crystals associated with Svanistana would be anything orange in color. And the one that I've chosen to mention here is carnelian. And this is the correlation. I keep carnelian on my kitchen counter because carnelian is supposed to have properties to help you get creative in the kitchen so that your meals look good and taste good and you have a certain pizzazz and creativity in cooking. So hopefully carnelian will help you remember taste or vice versa. When this chakra is balanced, it generally lends towards a person who is open to intimacy, who's creative and expressive. When this chakra is underactive, it could be repressed feelings, inhibitions, feeling unapproachable, or having a lack of intimacy. Whereas an overactive Svanistana chakra could lead to being highly emotional or clinging. I always think of stage 4 clinger, maybe sexual promiscuity. The Bija mantra, the sacred vowel sound associated with Svanistana, is VAM, V-A-M. And how I remember this one is like going back to the fact that we've been talking about sex for the last 4 minutes. Va-va-voom, VAM. Asanas associated with Svanistana, Yoga Mudra, Cobra, which is Bhujangasana. Healing foods would be anything orange, carrots, oranges, tangerines, nuts. I know we mentioned carrots before when we talked about the root chakra. And please know these are very close together. And a lot of times there'll be correlations, there'll be similarities between them. Again, just that last point, that Svanistana chakra is associated with water. Think pelvic bowl. The third chakra is known as Manipura. Manipura. Manipura chakra. I claim my personal power. This is the solar plexus. So it is thought of as the place where all of our personal power resides. It literally translates as city of gems or jewel of the navel. And it's located in the part of the vertebral column that corresponds with the navel region on the front side of the body. And that would be more like your lower thoracic or upper lumbar on the back side of the body. The element is fire. It's a yellow color like fire. And aspects of Manipura include vision, form, color, and ego. And it's associated with identification, ego, and the need for self-betterment. I think about personal power. One of my favorite quotes is from Henry Ford, and that is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right. Manipura chakra is known as the power chakra. Now this makes sense. We're talking about the solar plexus. Solar, sun, Surya. Think about all of the energy and fire and the creative force of the sun. So Manipura rules our personal power. It's our will, our confidence, the ability to be in control of our lives, and also our metabolism. Now, if you think about where your solar plexus is, this is where all of your intestines are. So this is also a idea that our metabolism, our digestion, our digestive fire, the Agni also being a word associated with fire and sun, all of this is located in the major core of our body. The actual meaning of the word Manipura is city of shining jewels. And again, it's the idea of something like sunshine, of rays of light. It's located in our upper abdomen, in the stomach area. And the emotional issues that are often associated with Manipura are self-worth, self-confidence, and self-esteem. But when in light, this archetype is the warrior. The warrior is fighting for righteousness. Think of Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Not just fighting to fight, but fighting for cause, being at cause. The shadow archetype is the servant. Think of being in a doormat kind of situation and not being appreciated. The color is yellow, and the element, as I've mentioned, is fire. The planet is most certainly the sun. The deity associated with Manipura chakra is Brahma Rudra. Now, Rudra is from the Rig Veda, and Rudra is the early incarnation of the Lord Shiva, known as the god of destruction. So when we think about the sun and how the sun can be this source of life, if you are abusing it or it is too harsh, it can be something very destructive. Almost like the idea that Shiva, as an early incarnation, didn't have enough discipline not to burn shit down. The sense associated with Manipura is sight. The flavor are things like ginger and lemongrass, spicy and warm. Crystals associated with Manipura chakra are citrine and tiger's eye, which, yes, is often brown, but you'll see the yellow specks. When balanced, this chakra is a sense of self-esteem, of self-respect, of healthy identity. If underactive, we lean towards that idea of the shadow archetype of servant, of doormat, being unassertive, being passive, unfulfilled, maybe can't make decisions. And if it's overactive, it lends towards the narcissistic, domineering, aggressive, abuses power and authority. I think very often right away, politician pops right into my head. You don't even have to name the politician. Just like think about the kind of narcissism that it takes to think that you know better than anyone else what they can do for themselves. And think of that as being a very overactive Manipura chakra. The element is fire. The Bija mantra, the sacred vowel sound, is Ram. Yes, just like the god. It's Ram. Ram. Asanas associated with Manipura chakra are most of our core series. Right? Think about Navasana, twist, revolve poses, anything that comes into the stability sequence that starts to fire up the core would be associated with solar plexus and Manipura chakra. The healing foods are yellow foods, corn, whole grains, fiber, granola, and nice spicy teas like ginger and chamomile and peppermint as well. So teas in general, ginger is the one thing I think of automatically that I go to. And how I remember it is that if Manipura is dealing with our digestion, ginger is often known to calm and balance digestion. So in Ayurveda, it is one of the things that we go to right away if you have an upset stomach or a slow metabolism. Manipura chakra is also associated with Uddiyana Bandha, pit of your belly in and up, and the element in Mahabhuta of fire. The next chakra, the fourth chakra, is Anahata chakra. Now, Anahata literally means unstruck. Now, think about where this is in the middle of the chakra system. This is the fourth, the center, the middle child of all of the chakras. And energetically, like that's important because it's the thing that bridges the lower and upper chakras together. But also that this is what we think of as the center of our bodies, right? If you remove legs or limbs, that your heart is in the center of your torso. We even use terms like getting to the heart of the matter. The mantra for this chakra is I open my heart fully to all of life, giving and receiving love, freely and fully. Anahata chakra is associated with love, with devotion, with self-confidence. I have a great quote from the Dalai Lama. When we think about Anahata, this is also the chakra where we talk about things like ahimsa, compassion. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, Practice compassion. Anahata chakra is associated with our ability to love, and it's also associated with the quality and depth of our love. The location, as I mentioned, is the center of the chest, just above the heart. It is the center of the chakra system. It is the center of our bodies. It's the heart of the matter. The meaning is unstruck. This idea that our heart, we talk about broken hearts, but this idea that our hearts can't really be broken, right? That there are lessons in every experience. The emotional issues associated with Anahata chakra are love and joy and inner peace. In light, the archetype associated with Anahata are the lovers, are the lover. This idea that, and this can be romantic love for sure, we are talking about that, but we're also talking about the ability to love, a mother or a father's love for a child, your love for your puppy's love for you, this unadulterated, like unspoiled, unstruck, like unsullied love. The shadow archetypal quality of Anahata chakra is that of the actor. So I want to mention that I'm not dissing on actors here. I have lots of friends in film. But this idea that you're acting like someone you're not in order to have someone love you or in order to be lovable. The idea that you would try to be what you think others want you to be so that you could be lovable. And this is challenging, right? Because we then build our relationship on a house of cards where we're afraid to be who we really are because we don't want to become unlovable. We'll get a lot more into that when we dive into Anahata chakra, into the practices. The color is green, and I want to mention that it's easy to remember this if you think about, there's a term that most of us know called green with envy, right? Or green with jealousy. And that if we are in a place where our Anahata chakra is overactive, that we could operate from a place of jealousy. That might be an easy way to remember the color green. Because most of the time, we think of love with something like pink or red, right? Like a Hallmark holiday. And I have had students ask in the past, like, is that where that comes from? Does it come from Hallmark? Is it something totally made up? And my answer is no. Actually, that very often in chakra meditation, students will testify that they see pink rather than green, that they see this almost rose quartz color here at their heart. And I would say that it's probably just different qualities of love, different moments in life, different moments in time, different moments in like where you are in your spiritual experience. So the color is green, but also can be pink. The element is air. The planet is Venus, and yes, Venus is associated with love. The deity is Ishana Rudra, one of the incarnations of Shiva. The sense is touch. And if you think of touch as a love language, that will help you remember that. Flavor, green tea, matcha, which, by the way, is very good for your heart. Crystals associated would be like green aventurine, emerald, rose quartz. When in balance, the Anahata chakra allows us to love openly and deeply. It allows us to feel compassion, helps us feel peaceful and connected to others. We feel like we can be ourselves. When it's underactive, you may feel cold or isolated or detached, unconnected, lonely. If overactive, think possessive, jealous, overly demonstrative, loving from a place of fear of loss or fear of abandonment or fear of cheating. The bija mantra or sacred vowel sound is yam, Y-A-M. The asanas would be anything that opens your heart. Back bends, baby. Ustrasana, Dhanurasana, Urdhva Dhanurasana, Sphinx pose, upward facing dog, lots and lots of back bends. Even a supported heart opener over a bolster would open up Anahata Chakra. Healing foods, and this is going to be easy to remember and help you remember the color green, would be anything green, especially big leafy vegetables like kale or spinach or rainbow chard, zucchini, anything green. And ironically, or maybe not so ironically, Ayurvedic medicine would tell you this is very much on purpose, that if you were having heart issues, congestive heart failure, or an arrhythmia, very often your doctor is going to tell you to eat more green leafy vegetables. They are very good for your heart. Last and not least, of course, just to repeat one more time, the Anahata Chakra is associated with love. Right above the heart chakra is the Vishuddha chakra. Vishuddha chakra. This is also known as the throat chakra. Now, this is associated very often with speaking your truth. The word Vishuddha also means pure in Sanskrit. It's located in the cervical spine in the area of the throat and neck, and it is associated with knowledge and communication. When you think of having a blocked throat chakra, you would think of needing to say something and not being able to say it. And the mantra here is, I speak my truth with wisdom and compassion. The quote is from Mark Twain. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. The color is sort of a brighter blue. Just above the Anahata chakra is Vishuddha chakra. This is your throat chakra. It governs creativity, expression, communication. When open, the throat chakra allows us to speak our mind, to speak our truth, to express ourselves well, and to feel our own voice, maybe even to feel heard. The location is at the throat. The word Vishuddha itself means the pure place. So we think about this as truth, right? Speaking truth, speaking purely, speaking straight. We'll talk in yoga teacher training about how important it is to speak straight, how important it is to ask for what we want. And this is going on here in Vishuddha chakra. The emotional issues are the seat of the communication. This is your self-expression of feelings. This is the ability to speak your truth, the ability to ask for what you want. But when in light, the archetypal qualities of Vishuddha are that of the communicator. I think of immediately Barack Obama, one of the best communicators in my lifetime, and how he could simply, with very few words, put out exactly what his message would be. Some of the great orators of our time, many of them politicians, but many of them just great leaders of civic movements, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. These people had a very balanced, very active, very developed Vishuddha chakra. The shadow side of Vishuddha chakra, the shadow archetype, is that of the silent child. And I think to a degree we all have this as well. Because at some point, as a child, most of us were shut down. We were told to be quiet. We were told children are seen and not heard, or that our voice didn't matter. Now, I think as women, we experience this more than men do. Men definitely still have this experience. This is definitely not gender specific. But very, very often, we're told something very early in childhood that brings out that shadow archetype of the silent child. And even the most skilled among us of being able to get our message out will have that feeling and that trigger over certain things, right? Maybe we sound really good and like I don't have a problem talking to a room full of people. It's not a fright of mine, public speaking. But there are things that come up in my life that immediately I feel that child archetype come out. We'll get a lot more into that as we go into each section. The color is a dark blue. The element is air or ether. You think about wind. The planet is Jupiter. And the deity is Shiva. The sense is hearing, which makes sense, right? If you're speaking, you need to hear. The flavor is peppermint. An easy way to remember that is that peppermint would soothe your sore throat. Crystals associated with Vishuddha chakra would be blue in color, like sodalite or lapis lazuli. Lapis is the one I think of most with Vishuddha chakra. And when I'm working to open my throat chakra, I will wear a mala of lapis. When balanced, Vishuddha chakra is inspirational, able to communicate freely, truthfully, to get your point across. When underactive, it can present as shy or really introverted. Nothing wrong with introverts. I mean like severely introverted, intimidated, unable to speak truth, or unable to ask for what you want. Overactive would be dominating, speaking without listening, talking over others. The bija mantra or sacred vow sound for Vishuddha chakra is Ham, H-A-M. Healing asanas and exercises would be lion pose, simhasana, shoulder stand, halasana or plow, and chanting. One of the greatest ways to work on opening your throat chakra is chanting, whether it's Om or anything else. Healing foods would be fruits and juices and teas, even honey, anything that would soothe the throat. And it's associated with sound, right? Speaking is associated with sound, and with jala bandha, where you tuck your chin towards your chest. The sixth chakra is known as Anya chakra. Anya. This is the third eye, or the command chakra. And the Tibetans call the third eye the seat of your intuition. So this chakra is associated with intuition, with an inner knowing. In fact, the mantra is, I'm guided by my intuition. I follow the path of my highest potential. And this makes me think of Baron Baptiste a lot, saying that we are up to something bigger than ourselves, right? When we tune in to an inner listening, we are up to something bigger. Now, this chakra is associated as the center of self-realization, of self-knowledge. It's often associated with transcendentalism, and it's called the stage of the true yogi. And the quote is from Dean Koontz. Intuition is seeing with the soul. The color is an indigo, deep, deep blue. Anya chakra is the place the Tibetans call the third eye, or the seat of intuition. And this chakra is about our ability to focus on and see the big picture. And the location is the forehead, right between the eyes, also called the brow chakra. It means seat of wisdom. And the emotional issues associated with Anya chakra are intuition, imagination, wisdom, the ability to think and make decisions. Well, the archetypal qualities associated with this are the intuitive. So, we see the word intuition, intuitive, it doesn't necessarily mean psychic, although if you wanted to take this to a higher degree, it might be someone who's psychic or can see things that others can't. There are definitely people who can see things that others can't, right? Who can see what people's intentions are, who can see through lies. Those people are very, very in tune with Anya Chakra. When in shadow, the archetypal shadow for Anya Chakra is that of the intellectual. So let me speak to this really quickly because it's important to say that knowledge is power, right? We've all heard that. Knowledge can also be unempowering or disempowering. Sometimes knowledge, what you know, can keep you from knowing anything else. There's a saying, and I don't know who ever said this first, but it's important to know what you don't know. Sometimes when we operate from I know, and we forget to drop what we know, then we create a place where we cannot learn anything, where our intuition gets blocked. So when we say that the shadow archetype of Anya is intellectual or intellectualism, we mean more that it's a rigid perspective and not being willing to learn something new. Well, the color is indigo blue, a dark, dark blue. The element is ether. Now we're talking about intuition. So we're talking something in Mahabhuta, in the great element, beyond physical form, beyond something we can feel or touch. The planet is Saturn. The deity is Ardhanarishvara. And this is very interesting, and I want to point this out just really quickly, that this is, Ardha means half, right? And this is a composite androgynous form of the Hindu deities of Shiva and Parvati. So it's half male, half female, equally split down the middle. Usually the right half is Shiva and the left half is Parvati. And so when we think about intuition, we're talking about calling on like all of us, calling on our masculine, on our feminine. It's a pretty interesting thing. We'll go deeper down that rabbit hole later. The flavor is pomegranate, and think of that as a deep purple, as a dark and healing seed. The crystal I like to associate with this is celestite, which is also a crystal that is known to call on like our spiritual guides. So associated with something more like intuition. When in balance, Anya Chakra allows us to see clearly and to put things into perspective. When underactive, it can be a lack of imagination or confusion, chronic confusion. Every now and then we all get confused. If it's overactive, it's head in the clouds, living in a fantasy world. The sacred vowel sound is Sham or Om. And in all of my research, I've seen both of them used about equally. Healing asanas and exercises would be anything that would activate the third eye. Child's pose with your forehead on the ground. Matsyasana or fish when you drop your head back and put the crown or forehead to the ground. Forward fold, Uttanasana. Eye exercises or eye gaze. If you close your eyes, do that right now. Close your eyes, soften your gaze. Lift your eyeballs up and into your brow point. That would be activating Anya Chakra. Also aromatherapy and oil treatments, as well as drishti, setting your intentional focus. Healing foods would be purple colored foods like grapes and pomegranates and blueberries, dark chocolate, lavender flavored spices and teas. Anya Chakra is also associated with light. Finally, the seventh chakra is the crown chakra, known as Sahasrara. Sahasrara. This is also known as the thousand-petaled chakra. It's not associated with an element. We'll go into all of that. It's more of the ether. The color is all and everything. So obviously in some kind of diagram, we can't show all and everything. And it's very often presented as violet. But really it's like white light. And white light, if you know anything about color theory, is actually not an absence of color. White is the inclusion of all color. Black is actually an absence, which is funny because we think about it the other way around very often. So this is often depicted as white light. And it's located at the top of the cranium, but it's also like part of you and part of the universe. So this comes into the idea of non-duality, that the Sahasrara chakra is connected to something and everything bigger. In itself, it's a dichotomy. It's non-dual consciousness and enlightenment, and it is you. It is the consciousness. So it's both. It's everything. The mantra for this is, I see the divine within me and all around me. That understanding again of non-duality. You're not your body, you're not your mind. You're this larger, bigger force that animates it. And I chose for your quote a Zen Buddhist proverb. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Sahasrara chakra is the highest chakra. It's the crown of your head, the connection between you and spirit, you and the universe. Sahasrara represents our ability to be fully connected spiritually. It represents awareness. It is our connection to the divine. As I mentioned, the location is the very top of the head. Now, I want to speak to non-duality for a moment. It's something that is really interesting and important to me, and I want to share my views with it with you. And we are often taught, all of us have grown up differently, I'm sure, but most of us, I'm going to assume, have been raised in some sort of Western religious tradition, whether it's Judaism or Christianity, something that has taught us about us and God. And one of the things that has been really interesting for me to learn, the more learning I do, the more I study with my teachers, Don Miguel Ruiz and Heather Ashamara, who are some of the great spiritual shamanic teachers of our age, the more I read Eckhart Tolle, the more I dive in to the ancient text of Hindu mythology. One of the things that I have learned the most, that has become the most impactful for me, and please understand, this is not different from what you learned, it's just an add-on, is that we are not separate from God. If you don't like the word God, my invitation for you right now is get your own definition. Don't worry about the word I'm using. Call God whatever you need to call him or her or it. But we're talking about this idea that in many cases, religion has been, I'm going to say, corrupted, and just put that out there for you to deal with however you want to, has been corrupted in that it has taught us that we are not unified with God, that we have to do something or be something in order to get God's grace, when really the ancient wisdom traditions taught that we are God's grace, that we are one with God, that we are divine. This idea that we're not human beings looking to have a spiritual experience, but rather we're spiritual beings who right now, in this time and place, are having a human experience. So there's my soapbox for the day. The emotional issues associated with Sahasrara, our inner and outer beauty, and our connection to spirituality, our connection to bliss. Now, so everything that I just said was to tell you this, that we are taught from a very young age that when we do this, when we get the job, when we meet the spouse, when we whatever, we will be happy, versus we are bliss, we are happiness. Those are different things and different ways to look at it. When in light, the archetypal quality of Sahasrara is that of the guru. And I'm not talking about you looking for a teacher outside of yourself. I'm talking about the guru within. your connection to spirit. When in shadow, it's the egotist. So that could be the false prophet, the false leader, or thinking that you're not connected to the divine. The color is ultraviolet, white. White is all colors, right? It's everything. It's bringing in all of the aspects of the universe. The element is ether. And I would even go beyond that it's beyond ether, that it's universal intelligence. The planet is all planets and no planets. The deity, the guru within. The flavors are honey and vanilla, the nectars of the gods. Crystals associated with Sahasrara would be things like amethyst, selenite. Selenite cleanses all other crystals. Clear quartz, again, all color. Like the rainbow can come through a clear quartz if it's in the sun at the right angle. When balanced, this chakra brings us knowledge and wisdom, understanding, bliss, nirvana, spiritual connection. It brings us closer to our true selves. When underactive, this chakra can feel unconnected to spirit, depression, loneliness. When overactive, again, head in the clouds, not connected to the world. The Bija mantra is the sacred vowel sound of Om. Healing asanas and exercises would be Urdhva Dhanurasana, full wheel or Chakrasana, lotus pose, meditation. Meditation is the big one here. That is one exercise, one practice that can get you closer to connected spirit. Healing foods would be the food of the soul, air and sunshine, getting out into nature. And this last one, and this is controversial, but I'll say it anyway, is that it's associated with thought. But I don't mean monkey mind thought. I mean the thought that we are divine. The thought of truly connected spirit. You are not your body. You are not your mind. You are the force that animates it. I want to share this chakra cheat sheet with you as an additional resource. So this will be in your lesson as a PDF. And this will be, if you're in yoga teacher training, you can use this sheet to study for your final exam. So here you'll see the chakras listed with the basic qualities of each one. From the bottom, from Muladhara to Svanistana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Anya, and Sahasrara. And if you are doing our 200-hour yoga teacher certification program, you will need to know the English and Sanskrit names for each one of the chakras, as well as their general location and the general qualities of each. Now, next time we meet, we'll be looking at the Muladhara chakra. And we'll dive into the archetypal qualities and archetypes of Muladhara, as well as learn different asanas and different kriyas and different practices that we can use to balance it out. And we'll start with Muladhara and go through each one. So the next time we meet in this workshop, please bring your yoga mat and anything that you need to sit comfortably, a bolster, a blanket, a pillow, and maybe a box of Kleenex. I'll see you all soon. What is an archetype? An archetype is a typical character, emotion,